There was a version of you that used to answer every text within minutes. That used to show up to things you didn't even want to go to. That used to explain yourself, defend yourself, over and over, just to keep people comfortable. And somewhere along the way, that version quietly stopped existing. You didn't announce it. You didn't post about it. You just started saying less, replying slower, showing up less often. And now you sit with the guilt of wondering if something is wrong with you. If maybe you've become cold, distant, hard to reach. Here's what nobody tells you. That distance isn't a malfunction. It's a symptom of a mind that finally started paying attention. In this video, we're going to walk through exactly why intelligent, self-aware people slowly vanish from the lives around them, not because they stopped caring, but because caring started to cost too much. And by the end, you'll understand why the very thing that feels like losing people is actually the moment you stop losing yourself. I want to start with something that happened to me, because I think it explains this better than any study ever could. A few years ago I had a friend group I was proud of. We texted every day. We showed up for each other's birthdays, breakups, bad days at work. From the outside it looked like exactly what friendship is supposed to look like. But I started noticing something I couldn't unnotice. Every time something good happened to me, the group chat would go quiet. A promotion, a new relationship, a small win I was excited about. Silence. But the moment something fell apart in my life, suddenly everyone had something to say. At first I told myself I was imagining it. Then I told myself I was being dramatic. But the pattern kept repeating, and once your brain catches a pattern like that, it will not let it go. That's the first thing almost nobody explains about this. It has nothing to do with arrogance, and everything to do with awareness. Most people go through life looking at others. Self-aware people eventually start reading them. At first, everything feels normal. Conversations feel meaningful. You believe what people tell you because you've never had a reason not to. Then something shifts. You start noticing the smile that doesn't reach someone's eyes. The compliment that carries a little too much edge underneath it. The friend who only appears when they need something. The person who says they're proud of you, and disappears the second you actually succeed. Once your mind starts connecting those dots, it becomes almost impossible to stop. Psychologists call this pattern recognition, and it sharpens with experience. The more self-aware you become, the faster your brain links behaviors that used to seem completely unrelated. People don't look any different on the outside. But they feel different. And that's exactly where the distance begins. Not because you stopped caring about people, but because you stopped confusing their attention with real connection. Pause here for a second and think about that. How many people in your life do you actually feel understood by, versus how many people simply take up space in your schedule? That question alone is uncomfortable, because most of us have built entire friend groups around convenience instead of connection. Here's the part that surprised me most in my own experience. I didn't pull away because I wanted to be alone. I pulled away because being around certain people started to feel exhausting in a way I couldn't explain. There's research suggesting that people with higher self-awareness spend significantly more mental energy processing conversations, reading intentions, sensing the emotional undercurrent beneath what's actually being said. While other people simply hear words, you start noticing the motive behind the words. While other people enjoy the moment, some part of your mind is quietly analyzing what's really happening underneath it. That constant awareness changes everything about how you experience other people. A conversation that used to feel exciting starts to feel predictable. A friendship that used to feel genuine starts to feel one-sided. Even a room full of people can start to feel strangely empty. This doesn't mean you think you're better than anyone else. It means you've stopped finding satisfaction in shallow interaction. Instead of asking how many people know you, you start asking who actually understands you. And once that question takes root, your entire social circle begins to shrink, not because you're pushing people away, but because you finally stop settling. There's an idea from Carl Jung that changed how I think about this completely. He believed that until we become conscious of what's happening inside our own mind, we will keep mistaking it for fate happening to us from the outside. Self-aware people eventually realize that most people aren't reacting to reality. They're reacting to their own fear, their own insecurity, their own unspoken pain. The person who criticizes you the loudest is often quietly envious of the progress you've made. The person who constantly interrupts you usually isn't confident enough to actually listen. The person who demands your attention is frequently terrified of being forgotten. Once you start seeing these patterns clearly, something shifts. You stop taking everything personally. You stop trying to fix people who were never asking to be fixed. And you become far more protective of your own mental space. This isn't coldness. This is what emotional intelligence actually looks like in practice. Not simply understanding your emotions, but understanding the emotions underneath other people's behavior, without letting those emotions dictate your decisions. That's why self-aware people stop replying to every message immediately. Stop showing up to every argument. Stop chasing every relationship that starts slipping. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they've learned something painful and true. Every yes given to the wrong person is a no given to your own peace. Take a moment here and ask yourself honestly. How many of your yes lately have actually been silent no's to yourself? Now here's the misunderstanding almost everyone gets wrong, including me for a long time. People assume that when someone withdraws, it's because they've fallen in love with being alone. That's not it at all. They haven't fallen in love with loneliness. They've fallen in love with clarity. For the first time, silence stops feeling like something to escape. It becomes the one place they can finally hear their own thoughts, without the static of everyone else's expectations layered on top. There's real psychological evidence that periods of intentional solitude improve self-reflection, emotional regulation, and the quality of your long-term decisions. That's why so many self-aware people stop fearing time alone. They're not hiding from the world. They're recharging, while everyone else keeps chasing noise and calling it connection. In that quiet, they read more. They think more carefully. They start questioning beliefs they used to accept without ever examining them. And slowly, something incredible happens. They stop needing validation from people who never truly understood them in the first place, because real confidence was never built from applause. It's built from self-respect. That's the exact moment priorities completely flip. The question stops being how do I fit in, and becomes does this life actually reflect who I really am? And once you've asked yourself that question honestly, there is no unasking it. To everyone watching from the outside, it looks like you disappeared. But the truth is the opposite. You finally stopped disappearing from yourself. Here's the last thing I want you to understand, because it's the part that changes how this whole story lands. This kind of distance almost never happens overnight. It happens one quiet realization at a time. One day you stop arguing with someone who already decided not to understand you. Another day you stop chasing a friendship that only exists when you're useful. Then, without any announcement, without any dramatic goodbye, you start building a life that no longer runs on other people's approval. To everyone else it looks sudden. But inside, that shift had been building for months, sometimes for years. And this is where most people misread it completely. They assume you became distant because you think you're above everyone else. In reality, you simply became more intentional about where your time, attention, and emotional energy actually go. Because your time is limited. Your energy is limited. And the people you keep close are quietly shaping the person you're becoming, whether you notice it happening or not. So if you've recently caught yourself stepping back from certain people, stop asking whether something is wrong with you. Ask something far more important instead. Are you running away from people, or are you finally walking toward the life that was actually meant for you? Sometimes the people who seem to disappear aren't lost at all. They're finally being found, by themselves. And maybe that quiet, uncomfortable distance you've been feeling isn't the end of something. Maybe it's exactly where your next chapter begins. If this made you see the people around you, or even yourself, a little differently, stay a while longer, because there's more waiting for you here. And before you go, I want to know something. Have you ever quietly disappeared from someone's life, or watched someone disappear from yours? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.
Like to learn more about human psychology? Like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe my channel now. Thank you for watching.